Hi friends! I'm so excited you're here today because I have some winter horror book recommendations. Yes, I know we're not in spooky season, but I do spooky season all year. I even have the "It is the season to be creepy" shirt on right now. It is so cute. But yeah, I love winter actually. I like that it does get darker earlier and cold. I like to be inside under the blankets with a scary book. It is so much fun for me. So let's get right into the recommendations, starting out with The Shuddering by Anya Alborn. This is a fun creature feature isolation book where you are rooting for the creature, I feel like, in this one when you meet all of these characters. So yeah, it's super fun, it's quick and easy, and will bring some joy into your holiday season. The next book I'm going to recommend is The Hunger by Alma Katsu. This is based off of the Donner Party the Oregon Trail thing that happened way back in the day where people got stranded during a very difficult winter and some things happen. This is a fun mix of like historical stuff mixed with some horror elements, and then not just humans being horrific, they are in this, but it's like something else going on too. This was my first Alma Katsu book and it did not disappoint. It had me super intrigued the whole time, and I'm also very interested in the Donner Party history stuff, and yeah, Alma Katsu knows her history. The next book I'm going to recommend is Boys in the Valley by Philip Fracassi. I actually read this one towards the end of summer and it had me chilled to the bone. It was so cold of a book. As you can tell from the cover, you see a lot of snow. It takes place in a boys' orphanage, and it is the middle of winter and something goes very wrong one night. This is a possession story, release of evil story, and you really feel for these boys and you feel the cold from this setting. The next book I'm going to recommend is another new book, and that is The Haunting on the Hill by Elizabeth Hand. This is actually a canon story of Shirley Jackson's The Haunting of Hill House, and I had no idea when I was reading it in October that it was. I liked this story. I do feel like the ending was a little bit rushed, but the overall enjoyment level and haunted house level was there. I had a lot of fun with this one. I am a bit of a drama nerd. You do follow drama people. They're writing a play and they rent Hill House, and you know, stuff starts going down. They rent it in the middle of October. It is a beautiful fall they're having, and then overnight it is dead of winter. It's snowing like 3 feet, and it's very cold. So I think this is very fitting for a good winter horror read. The next book I'm going to recommend is The Moon and the Crested Snow by Webogashé Grice. This is a very short book, but boy, it is so creepy. This is about a town that gets cut off from like the outside world during a big blizzard, and it is a pretty isolated town, so they're kind of used to this happening every year, but it just goes on a little too long, and some stuff just keeps building. Stuff just keeps building up, and there's more details more details of what's actually going on the outside world that come into their town. I'm not trying to give anything away because it is very short, and there is a sequel, because the way this one ended, I was like, oh gosh, I need another book. So I cannot wait to read the sequel of this one, and if you haven't read this one yet, it is a perfect winter read. The next book I'm going to recommend is a graphic novel. It's Through the Woods by Emily Carroll. There's 4 stories in this, and each take place in winter in the woods. This was a trip. I think it's the last story in this one had me terrified. But yeah, so good. The art is so magnificent. Like, it is just so fun. I could see myself rereading this one this year too, just to get in those winter horror vibes. And I feel like this is on every winter horror list because it is truly horrifying, and that is The Terror by Dan Simmons. This is a fiction book based on the Franklin expedition that happened in Antarctica, and 2 ships got stranded in the ice during winter, and they were stranded, or they're still up there. I was like, and they were stranded for like 2 years, but like for real, like the ships are up there. The show is so good of this too. I really liked what they did with the book, or yeah, from the book to the show. It is very, very long. Again, this is kind of like The Hunger by Amakatsu. There's some stuff that goes down when you're with a group of people, I guess, and there's nothing to eat. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It is very long. It might take you all winter, but it is worth it. Next book I recommend is The Woman in Black by Susan Hill. This is so creepy. This is a haunted house supernatural story about this lawyer who goes to close down this estate of this woman that lived in this big old creepy house in kind of a creepy town too, but the people of the town know what's up, right? It is very cold and wet, and I absolutely loved it. As you see, I have the fabulous Daniel Radcliffe movie cover edition of this book because I absolutely love the movie as well. And the next book I recommend is White Horse by Erica T. Worth. This is a story about a woman being haunted by her mother, but it takes place when in the middle of winter, and it's very, very cold and snowy. As you can tell from the cover, you can see like the snow in her glasses. I remember just being in love with this main character and being so hooked, and like I needed to know what happened, and the ending was very emotional. And there is also a lot of Shining connections in this. This main character goes to the Overlook, and it's like snowing, and it's like it's just all the things. I absolutely loved it, and I thought some of the haunting moments in this were actually very creepy. So I highly suggest White Horse for your winter horror reading. Speaking of The Shining, I probably liked White Horse so much because I absolutely love The Shining by Stephen King. I actually reread it last year in December, and it absolutely terrified me to do the audio. I read it physically years ago and it absolutely terrified me. I did the audio and it terrified me. I was very scared. This is a very scary book about a family that goes to live in a hotel for 4 months. I feel like everybody knows the premise of this, but like just saying it out loud, it's like, that is a bad idea, a horrible idea. And yeah, there are ghosts, but also scarier than that, there is some domestic violence happening. And then there's like so much more, I feel like, in the book that happens that isn't in the Kubrick movie, of course, that adds that other emotional level to it. And it is very, very cold and snowy, lots of snow. Whenever I think of The Shining, I just think of a big old building covered in snow. Of course, I have to talk about Let the Right One In by Jonna Vitti Lindqvist. I probably totally butchered this. This is a Swedish vampire story. This is about isolation as well, even though the main character is not completely isolated, but I remember this book feeling like very isolating and sad and very disturbing. The book is much darker than the movie. I absolutely love the movie. I love the pool scene so much, but this one is definitely the original text, I should say, is very, very dark. And then for the last 2 books, I'm going to recommend 2 Stephen Graham Jones books, wherever you're at with that author. Of course, my first recommendation is Don't Fear the Reaper. This is the sequel to My Heart is a Chainsaw, and it takes place during winter. I think this is a great winter slasher. The villain in this is absolutely terrifying, and some of the kill scenes had me gagging, and I loved all the characters that we get a POV from, and yeah, it was just it's so good. I cannot wait for the third book in this trilogy. And then of course The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. It also takes place during winter and is an excellent revenge story. One of my top favorite revenge stories out there, and I highly recommend this one if you haven't read it yet. So that is it. That is all of my winter horror recommendations. If I think of anything else too, I will leave it in the description box down below. There's so much winter horror out there. It is one of my favorite times of year for horror. I feel like things get more scary during winter. I mean, it definitely did back in the day. That is when horror stories came out to tell your family around the fire in the dark, dark night. So let me know your favorite winter horror recommendations down below, and I hope you guys have a great day. Bye!